Do you like chill it afterwards? Like,
Oh
where
no,
do
you
you
have to
put
keep it
this?
warm.
Oh, you keep
So
it warm.
yeah, you have to keep it warm. And they told you to put it between your boobs. So like I had this like little canister of sperm in my boobs as we drove from like our house to the doctor's office to drop it off.
Whoa. Welcome back to another episode of Moms on the Mic with Mariah. Today is a really cool day because I got to talk to Nicole about her experience with not only IVF, but gestational diabetes in a later episode. And so this will be broken into 2 episodes. So today we will be talking to Nicole about IVF. And IVF was something that I knew nothing about because I got pregnant randomly. I just found Nicole to be so knowledgeable about the topic. And it's just a reminder to you guys, we're not doctors or nurses or medical professionals or experts on the topic. We're just women telling our stories. So understand, this is not like medical advice. This is just more someone telling you their story about IVF. So here it is. Welcome, Nicole. Hey, Nicole. Welcome to Moms on the Mic. I am so excited to have you on. I know you are pregnant currently. How many weeks are you right now?
I am 36 and
Oh
a
my
half.
God.
So
Fuck
almost
yeah.
30.
You're almost done.
Thank God.
I know. You're like a really interesting person to interview because I know you had to do IVF to have your baby boy. So I'm really curious to hear a lot about this shit because I don't know anything about IVF. It should be pretty cool to listen to.
I'm excited to talk about it. I feel like it's just part of my life now, and it seems like the normal part of the whole process to me. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about you and your husband. How did you guys meet? Tell us a little bit about that.
So Eric and I met 3 years ago, and we met on Hinge dating app, which I don't know if that's the norm anymore, but that was the norm at the time. And yeah, we dated for a year. We got engaged at 2 years, and here we are at 3 years having a baby. So we just really crammed it all in the first 3 years. But it's been good. He's very intellectual, but then also very extrovert. So
Woo!
there's both sides of the coin with him. We fit good. So
yeah, you've always been pretty chill. So
yeah.
this is like it's a good balance, right?
It's a good balance. We've always had the same like goals and values. That's always been super helpful. Which I'm sure everyone's looking at in a marriage, obviously, but it's nice when it aligns and it just makes the whole process easier, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like when you guys were talking about having kids, how many kids did you guys originally want?
So
I wanted 4, and that's down to 1.
I did too. Eric has always, I don't know, he's kind of waffled between 2 and 3, and I've always waffled between 3 and 4. At this point, if I have 1, I will be ecstatic.
Yeah, me too.
It's such a turn of events. I feel like, I mean, I was so set on at least 3, like that was a minimum. I think, yeah, it changes as you go through the process. I think 1 or 2 at this point would be perfectly fine with me. But yeah, we had lofty goals.
Yeah, it's like, I think you know, at least for me, like I got so sick where I learned like pregnancy is completely different than I thought. So I was like, I'm not fucking doing this 4 times.
I cannot imagine at this point. I mean, I don't know, maybe ask me in 2 or 3 months after I give birth, but at this point, there is no way I can absolutely imagine doing this 4 times. There's no way. And whoever does, like, you are a
God bless them.
And like you are like next level, like I can't even.
So what happened? Like when you decided to get pregnant, like what did that look like for you? Because I mean, I randomly got pregnant, so I didn't even have time to think. So like for the people who actually do like think about this and plan, like what happens?
I have always wanted to have kids. I have a niece and a nephew, and they're my favorite human beings in the whole world. So I knew that I wanted to have kids like right after we got married. I'm 30. I was 30 at the time.
Yeah.
So I knew my own biological clock was ticking. And Eric was on board, so there was no sort of issue there. So probably about a month before our wedding, I got off of birth control. I've been on birth control since I was probably like 14, to help with like acne and cramps and all this other crap. So I got off birth control about a month before our wedding, and then we started trying right after we got married. And yeah, it was an easy decision. I think we didn't we didn't know what we were getting into, as much as I probably should have.
None of us do.
um, and yeah, I had my sister to kind of help with like what ovulation looked like and all of that fun stuff. So that helped.
Wait, so like, what do you like? Tell me about this ovulation. Like, what is the deal with this tracking? Like, what do
Mhm.
you do?
So I don't know if everyone does this, but this is what we did: is we had these like ovulation sticks that you literally like pee. I think you just pee on them or you put them in pee or something like that. And it basically tells you like, here's the, I can't remember if it's a week or 2 weeks of the month that like you should have sex, and like this is when you're most prime for getting pregnant.
Mm.
And so it was like every month that we tried to get pregnant, we did these ovulation sticks. And we're like, okay, now's like go time. Like this is when we're gonna get pregnant. Blah blah blah. So we did that probably for 4 months, maybe 5 months. And my sister had gone through IVF. And so I always knew in the back of my head, like that this was, something that was a high likelihood for us because of what she had gone through.
So
And
is
so
it genetic? Is it genetic?
you know, part of me thinks yes, and part of me thinks no. I would say more yes than no. I think that being on birth control at such an early age, that totally probably played a factor in it. I think the stuff that they know about birth control was different than what we knew back then. So I think it's kind of both. I mean, Christine and I are twins. My sister and I are twins. And so everything medically that's ever happened to either one of us has happened to the other one. So I wasn't completely shocked that that was the road that we were going to have to go on, and that after 4 or 5 months that I wasn't seeing any progress in what we were currently doing.
Hmm.
Um, Not that like after 4 or 5 months, like you should give up either.
Yeah,
Uh,
no.
but yeah, that's kind of where we were at that point.
So after 4 or 5 months, so then you said, okay, well now I'm gonna go and like
Mhm.
go to the OB, or like what did that look like?
So, I because it was always in the back of my head, I knew that like, hey, maybe it's smart to just go and call, the IVF place and like have them do like all these extra checks on me that probably you wouldn't normally do to just see like, hey, where are we at with this? Like, is everything working properly? Like,
Hmm.
check my blood or all my, I don't even know what they check in your blood, all my hormones and levels, are they all correct? So I set up this appointment, and Christine, my sister, was like, oh, you got to call now because it takes like 3 to 6 months to get an appointment. And I'm like, okay, we've already been trying for 4 or 5 months.
Whoa.
By the time we get an appointment, I'll have almost, been trying for almost a year at that point. And so I called and they were like, hey, we actually had someone cancel and you can come in next week. And I was like,
Wow. Okay, that's
okay,
amazing.
wasn't really ready for that, but here we go. Anyway, so we went in the next week and I explained like, hey, my twin sister went through IVF, and they were like, oh, well, if your twin sister went through IVF and she went through all the steps before, which I'm not even going to get into, but there's all these steps that you do
Yeah.
before you even get to IVF. We'll just bypass you and move straight to IVF.
Well, so
And
yeah, so then they must see, I mean, whether we know it or not, there must be something to this
yes,
then, like of where is you're a twin. So that's like also some cool shit. But like outside of that, like there's must be something. Who knows? Who
right,
knows what, right?
right.
But
But they were so
uh,
positive in it that it was like a no-brainer to them that this was the route that I was gonna have
yeah,
to go. I'm like, thank
yeah.
God I went in and like, even started to like have them look at anything. And then once we started the IVF process, which we could talk about too, but they started running all of these, tests on me that I wanted them to run. And they're like, here's this is what we're seeing. If you would have, here's all the other things that we're seeing. And they wouldn't have even found these things if I wouldn't have gone in to be like, hey, I just want to check. It just was like this unknown thing that I just would have kept trying and had no idea what was going on in my body, basically.
Well, what's crazy is, I have had friends who have frozen their eggs. And one of the things that's been common, I think, with their denominator is they're like, I should have gone in sooner at like 25 to like check my shit. Because if I would have froze my eggs at 25, like it would have been smarter for me because now my fertility is like, I have
It's frozen.
endometriosis, I have other things. Yeah, like it's done.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't even think about this stuff, to be quite honest. I would just try to have a kid.
Yes, like
You
a
know?
normal person. That's whatever. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what everybody
no
does.
one's told us any differently.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's
So,
wild. And I'm
well,
so glad that I just went to check because,
well, thank God you have your sister. I mean,
yeah,
sisters are
hmm
amazing.
they really are. But I mean, it just makes me, I mean, typically they don't even check if anything's quote unquote wrong until the 1 year mark. And it's like
Yeah.
for a whole year, I mean, at the time I was 30, so then I would have been, if I would have waited the whole year, I would have been 31 plus, 31 and a half. It's like, it's just a biological clock at that point that like you're running up against 35 basically.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't have time to just sit around and wait for maybe like something to figure out itself. Like that seems so crazy to me.
So they assessed the situation and then they said, okay, like here's the game plan. This is what we're going to do. And is it specific to each person? Like, how does this work at these IVF clinics?
Yeah, so it's definitely specific to each person. Because I again just jumped to straight to IVF, it was like they needed to do all of these checks to make sure my body was primed for the IVF
Mm.
process. And so they basically go in with different things. They do ultrasounds. They do, in my case, they put like a microscope up into my uterus and checked out what my uterus looked like to make sure that once you go through this whole IVF process of like eggs and gathering your eggs, that like whatever environment you're putting the egg into, so in this case your uterus,
Mhm.
that it's like perfect, because you don't want to put this perfect egg that you just worked so hard to grow into something that's not also perfect. And so that's where they really found a lot of these issues with me specifically, was with my uterus. There was like three
Mm.
different things that were wrong with it. Like one, it was like a butterfly shaped instead of whatever shape it's supposed to be, or a heart. And then I had a polyp, and then something similar to endometriosis, and I can't think what it's called right now, but
It's
maybe
okay.
andrometriosis. Um, anyway, so there was like these three different things wrong that they went and checked for because I was doing IVF, that they were like, if we wouldn't have checked for this stuff, you would have had like a 1 to 0% chance of getting pregnant by yourself.
What?
And I was just like, good thing I came in. Like,
Yeah, good thing.
it's so
Seriously.
terrible. So terrible. So they did like a pretty minor surgery to correct some of those different things in my uterus before they put our embryos in my uterus. But it's just
Yeah.
one of those things. It's like hindsight 2020. Like, no wonder it wasn't working for the 4 to 5 months that we were trying. Like, it's just, I'm glad that they checked.
Well, what's crazy to me too is like, and I think that maybe you'll be able to, I don't know if you agree with this, but so it's like more of a question for you, but like, don't you feel like currently now that you're pregnant, like your body is working so hard? So like, it makes sense why people can't get pregnant because it's like in overdrive. Like I felt like my body was like working so hard to create this person,
Mm-hmm.
inside of me. So it makes sense to me that everything has to be in like pristine condition for you
Mm-hmm.
to be able to conceive.
Yeah. I feel like when we started the conceiving process, it was like,
Yeah.
there was no like, pristine precision or pristine conversation that was had with me. It wasn't like, hey, you need to be like really good weight. You need to be, your uterus needs to be perfect. Your eggs need to be perfect. Like there was none of that. It was just like, oh, it'll happen for you. Like just wait. And it's kind of like, I mean, some people, yes, that is what happens to them. But for me, it was not what happened.
Yeah. And for a lot of people at this
Hmm.
point, they're doing IVF. I mean, half of the people that I know
Hmm.
are pregnant right now have done IVF. So
Yeah.
after they primed everything, then what happened? So like what happens next, like with these embryos? And this is like seems kind of cool that you can pick the sex of the baby, right? Or
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
happens then with the embryos, like the harvest?
Yeah. So the first part was, mine was two-part because I had to do this uterine surgery first.
Mm-hmm.
So now is the egg harvesting process, which, and all of these things, they have to align with your period, which they're also
Oh,
controlling at the same time with medication, and shots and all of these different things. So it's like, then you have to take like a 2-ish week break, basically, for your body to like chill out. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 weeks, but 2 or 3 weeks. And then you start this process of growing a massive amount of eggs in your ovaries. Usually you only grow one or two at the most.
Yeah.
That's if you're having twins, right? One or two eggs, and then they're released from your ovaries into your uterus to be fertilized. And so at this point, you're taking all these medications, you're taking shots to make your ovaries grow more than one or two eggs. So you're growing like, I want to say like 40 different eggs. Everyone's different,
Whoa.
right? So I think we grew and we started with 40 eggs. So when they took, we primed my body to come up with 40 eggs, and you feel like huge. Like, I mean, now I feel huge pregnant, but it's like a different huge, like you just feel very uncomfortable and you feel very full of
Uh-huh.
eggs, essentially.
Whoa.
um, and yeah, and then they just go in and take them all out. And then you start this whole other process of just basically waiting. So they, you go into surgery, they take your eggs out of you. These, like, I don't know, again, it differs for everyone. I think I had like 30 to 40 eggs that they took out. And then they fertilize all of them with your partner's sperm. And then they wait for them to grow. And not all of them grow, not all of them mature. They grow at different rates. And so you're essentially waiting a week or more, 5 days or 7 days, for them to say, like, hey, these eggs with the sperm that have been fertilized, which is now an embryo, are viable for IVF. So out of the 30 to 40 eggs that we took out of me in the beginning, we ended up with 5 viable embryos. So there's a huge drop off between how many eggs you actually harvest.
Whoa. What would be
And
the reasons for a drop off, Nicole? Like, why would some drop off?
so I mean, there's a ton of different things, right? Like, they don't mature, the cells don't divide in the way that they're supposed to. When they get to like the 5th day or the 7th day, they also do you can opt to do genetic testing. It's like an extra, I think, $1,000. You do this genetic testing on your embryos to make sure that, none of them have any like abnormalities, that kind of stuff. And so that rolls out even more eggs. So there's just these different tests that they do to make sure that they're like the most pristine embryos that they're going to give you. Because I mean, the last thing you want to do is work so hard to
Yeah.
have all this happen. And then you're essentially, basically, if you put an egg or an embryo that's not perfect, you're just causing yourself the heartache of a miscarriage.
Yeah, I've had friends do multiple rounds of IVF and have to go through that.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's the other thing.
like,
People harvest their eggs multiple times. Thank God I only had to do it once, because we got 5 embryos at the end. But people end up with 0 or 1,
sad.
and it just, I mean, going through the process once was, I mean, the amount of shots. We were doing 3 shots a night. Eric was having to do them all for me. And it's like a big needle. It's not
Oh,
like a simple,
Jesus.
like, little
I
thing.
would die.
It's a big ass needle, and it's my where they were doing the shots, like, I started to lose feeling, and they're like in your back
Oh
to your
no.
side, and I, like, my whole back, like, it was just numb, and I had no feeling in where they were doing the shots anymore. And I was like, I just have to get through this. I just have to get through it.
Yeah, it's sad.
So
It's a
yeah,
lot.
I can't imagine doing it more than once. There's people that have to do it so many times though. So I got quote unquote lucky, I guess.
Yeah, and then like what did Eric say about these like sperm deposit places? Like where the fuck does he go to like jack off in a cup? Like where is he going?
So it was during COVID. So I don't think this is a normal process, but usually I think they just have you go in like this little side room with magazines, I would assume, and like do your sperm deposit. But thankfully, actually, it's probably better that it was COVID. He got to
Yeah.
do it all at home,
Oh,
and
that's good.
we just had to bring it into the office. So he got
Do you
lucky.
like chill it afterwards? Like
Oh
where do
no, you
you
have to
put
keep it
this?
warm.
Oh, you keep
So
it warm.
yeah, you have to keep it warm, and they told you to put it between your boobs. So like I had this like little canister of sperm in my boobs as we drove from like our house to the doctor's office to drop it off.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. I didn't realize this. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Wow. That's education to me. Okay. So this is like a pretty easy process for a guy. For us, we
Yeah. I mean, I
struggle.
hope they adopt this at home process for them, because I mean, it's, I feel for them.
Yeah, I do too. That's like super weird. It's like, yeah,
Right.
I'm like dropping off, I'm coming by to jack off. And
Basically. Because I just want to have a baby, please.
yeah, I just want to have a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is really interesting. So, like, did you have any side effects from freezing your eggs? Because I've heard some of my friends get headaches. Some of them had like the bloating. I for sure have heard that. It's like, what other?
Yeah.
I mean, you were numb in your back. What other things did
Mhm.
you notice?
Yeah, those were the two biggest things. The bloating was no fun. The numbness in the back, it lasted for probably about 6 months after, and then I got feeling back
Whoa.
after. Yeah, I Googled the heck out. I mean, every time something weird happens to you with pregnancy, you just Google the heck out of it. But
WebMD.
seriously, you just don't know what's happening. You're like, this
Well,
is a weird
yeah.
feeling. This doesn't feel right. Like, and lo and behold, multiple other people have had that happen. So yeah, the 6 month mark, there were still a couple spots that were like completely numb, and I was like getting a little nervous, but
Sad.
we're almost a year out and it's all back. So,
Oh, you're back.
but you never know. I mean, that could have been it. I would have been just like, okay, these spots are numb. Like that's the sacrifice for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot to go through. I know this seems like a normal process to you, but it's still like that's a lot of hormones. Did your face break out or anything? Like, did you get acne from any of this?
I had acne with my pregnancy. I didn't have acne with the shots. Um, I also, again, my sister went through IVF, so I was mentally ready for this. Whereas I
Yeah.
feel like Christine, my sister, if you talk to her, she had a completely different experience with IVF. And like, I was like, I knew I had to do these 3 shots. I knew that I was going to feel bloated. I knew that it was going to be a long process. And people try for years before they even get to IVF. And I'd only been trying for, 4 or 5 months. And so I feel like if anything, that's why I didn't talk about it as much with everyone, because I felt like I was getting like the good end of the stick still, and like
Yeah.
not having to go through this traumatic experience that everyone else has to go to. So I feel like I'm pretty nonchalant about it.
So what
Right.
did they say was the percentage of like, so after you get the eggs frozen, the embryos frozen, so then
Mhm.
like what do they do now? They prep your body for the fertilization of the egg,
Yeah.
or like I guess not fertilization, but like the implantation.
Yeah. So again, then you wait another 2 to 3 weeks for your period to come again. It's just a bunch of waiting process, which I thought was very
Oh, for
annoying.
your
But
period.
yeah. So then you like start taking medication and you start taking a different set of shots that are gonna like prime your uterus to be like nice and squishy and comfy for the embryo.
Whoa.
And then the embryo implantation process was honestly the easiest part of the whole thing. They literally just put like a little tiny tube inside your uterus and drop the egg in there.
Oh, that's
But you get
great.
to watch it all on video, which was kind of cool, I thought.
Yeah, that
And
is cool.
they send you like a little picture of what your embryo looks like, the little cells. And yeah, the part that was you mentioned this too, picking the gender. So the genetic testing, yeah, they tell you which embryos are girls and which ones are boys. But they also grade the embryos. So they say like, okay, this is your like number one best embryo. This is your
Wow.
number two best embryo that has a chance of survival. And so Eric and I did not choose the gender. We just said put the best one in because we wanted the best chance of it working out. But you could totally be like, oh, I want a girl or I want a boy. And
So
that would be that.
did you think about like putting two in, or were you like, I'm not fucking doing that?
So yes, I really wanted twins because I'm a twin, obviously.
Yeah.
But they won't even let you do that anymore.
What?
So yeah, they only do it if it's like medically necessary. So like, for
Oh.
example, if you've implanted one embryo and it didn't work, then the next time they'll potentially try 2 embryos to see if there's like a better chance of one sticking, basically. So yeah, they wouldn't even let me do 2, even if I wanted to, because it's just from their perspective, and I totally get it. From their perspective, it's like if you do 2, there's just so many more things that can go wrong with your pregnancy
Yeah.
that they want to avoid because they want you to have a healthy baby. So yeah, my twin dreams were crushed.
Oh, womp womp. That's okay though.
At this point,
Yeah.
I'm like, thank God I didn't do
Yeah.
that.
Oh my God. Can you imagine too?
No, I cannot imagine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, that would have been cool. You're a twin though, so I can
I
definitely understand your perspective with it. But that makes,
have
I
a
mean, it makes sense
new
why they don't want us to
appreciation.
do that
Yeah,
now.
totally. Just new appreciation for twin moms. My mom boss also.
Yeah, it is. Like two screaming babies in the middle of the night. God
You can't
bless these
imagine.
mothers. So, okay, so you do the implantation. What was
Mhm.
the likelihood of you actually getting pregnant? What percentage did they give you?
It depends for everyone, right? So I had never had a miscarriage before. I've never been pregnant before. I've never had an abortion. And all of those things play into your percentages and likelihoods of getting.
Oh,
So for me, because I had this like essentially, I don't even want to call it a clean slate, but like, the
yeah.
best possible option basically was I had 80% chance
Oh, that's
of
actually
getting
very
pregnant.
high now.
Yeah, it's pretty high. So I felt good about it. Again, the only thing I had to go on was my sister's experience. So I knew that she had had eventually a positive outcome. But yeah, so I was feeling pretty positive about it. But again, then you're just in a waiting game again because they implant the embryo and then you still have to wait 12 days before you test to find out if you're actually pregnant or not. So again, just a waiting game of like, and there's nothing you can do, right? You're not drinking, you're not like, they said light exercise. So like it was like walking was kind of like it basically.
Yeah.
And again, you're at that point where you're like, all right, I'm just willing to do anything to like move on from this. Yeah, it was a weird, I mean, the whole IVF process was probably like a 4-month process from the second they like checked me in to when I was actually pregnant. And that's, probably best case scenario um, of that process because usually you don't skip right to IVF, right? You do all these other steps before.
IUIs, yeah, try to get
Yeah.
pregnant. I
Hmm.
mean, did you have any shame in the situation, or because you had your sister who kind of like guided you through it, did you feel a lot better about like
Um,
having to do IVF?
I wasn't, I think if I had to find a spot where like I felt shameful and why I didn't want to tell everyone, because I probably only told like, I don't know, 5 people at this point beyond my family
Yeah.
that we did IVF, is that because I feel like I just got lucky, right? It was like the stars aligned, like Christine, my sister's experience, the doctor's appointments getting canceled, them finding the stuff wrong with my uterus that needed to be fixed. There was just, it wasn't the normal IVF process. And I didn't want anyone who went through the IVF process and had been trying for like 2 or 3
Yeah.
years to get pregnant and we're starting with like the basics and not even getting straight to IUI. Um, I didn't want to make anyone feel less than and like, oh, look at me, like we're doing IVF and we just started trying, I feel like. So I don't know if it was shame, but it was like I felt guilty that we
Yeah.
we lucked out basically and I went in and talked to the doctor. But at the same time, that was my own volition of like, hey, something's probably wrong here. I need to go check it out. And if anything, it's more of a call to people like, don't wait 2 years. Don't wait until you like are exasperated because
Yeah.
you
No.
should have a medical right to go check out what's going on with your own body and know those things.
Yeah. We are our own only advocates. Like, I think
Yes.
as women, like our fertility is
Mm-hmm.
not under our control because I don't think that fully, but like we can do the steps to at least seek,
Mm-hmm.
the information.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you.
No one
Yeah.
else is going to advocate for you. No one else is going to make the doctor's appointments. Like, if you want something, like go and get it, and you shouldn't be waiting for you know nothingness.
Yeah. So after you, and I completely agree, after you, basically found out you were pregnant, then like, what do they do? Is there additional steps within IVF or like, when does this
Yeah.
IVF stuff end? In a sense,
Never.
like,
Yeah. Well, so you see them up until 12 weeks.
oh, okay.
So you go in early for like extra ultrasounds extra checks until 12 weeks. And then at 12 weeks, you switch over to like a regular OBGYN and have regular pregnancy appointments. They do 2 or 3 extra checks during your pregnancy for IVF pregnancies. Like we had to do an extra check on his heart to make sure that was okay. And then an extra ultrasound towards the end that normally people wouldn't do if you just got pregnant naturally.
Why does their heart have to be checked? checked.
I don't know. I feel like I'm sure they told me at some point.
Yeah.
At that point, I was like, you know what, check everything, because we just went through hell and back to get
Yeah.
this done, that I was just like, do whatever you got to do. But I'm assuming that there's some correlation with IVF and a baby's heart growing correctly, that they routinely check for it at this point.
Oh, it's really interesting. Okay, so that's something I definitely did not know.
Yeah.
So there are additional things, and then do you do shots like up to 12 weeks, you said?
hmm
So what happens exactly with that? Like how many shots are you doing a night?
hmm So everyone's different. For me, they had me on progesterone, which is this shot that's like the one with the longest needle, and you do it up
Oh
until 12
God.
weeks. Some people only have to do it until like 8 or 10 weeks. They're
Mm.
constantly checking your blood levels to see, like, okay, your progesterone is at the right level of where it's supposed to be. Because you didn't get pregnant naturally, it's like, okay, we're making sure that your body's creating the progesterone or the correct amount of hormones that it needs to sustain the pregnancy.
Mm.
And a lot of times when people have multiple miscarriages, they also prescribe progesterone. They can do shots, or they can do like deposits where you literally have to stick the pill up your vajay to like
Mm-hmm.
um, be a deposit for progesterone. So for a while, I was doing both of those, and then I switched to just the shots, and upped my dosage there. But yeah, I did them up until 12 weeks, and they honestly made me so, so sick. I feel like 12 weeks is your first trimester, basically, right? And so it's like it just made the first trimester even worse than a normal first trimester, because of the amount of medication that we were taking from this progesterone
Oh
hormone.
my gosh.
It slows down your digestion. I had a ton of GI issues, which, I mean, GI issues are pretty normal in the first trimester, like, nausea and uh,
Yeah.
just feeling sick all the time. And so it was just, I mean, I have to imagine it was like double or triple what a normal first trimester was. It was in bed. Like, I almost feel like, looking back on it, hindsight 20, I should have been on leave from work. Like, it was that bad that I didn't want to do anything, and I couldn't eat anything. I was drinking like protein shakes for a week, because that was like the most simple thing I could think to like get in my body as far as nutrients. But yeah, that wasn't fun. And again, not everyone's experience with progesterone, but that was mine. This next time you go around, I'm going to be like, do I have to take this? Like, what's going to happen if I don't take this? Like, I need
Yeah.
full information. I feel like I was just along for the ride. I was like, yeah, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask more questions this time around, and like, how critical is it that I'm taking this medication for my pregnancy? Because it was not worth it to me. If it
Yeah.
was a minimal, like, nice to have type of thing.
I didn't realize that you're taking those progesterone shots. You finished your IVF. Now
Mm-hmm.
you're finally pregnant. You push through your first trimester, and then you're going to continue to see the doctor like up till, periodically. You got the heart checked. You went in for those additional ultrasounds, and now you just let's transfer over to your OB. Like, are they in communication?
Yeah, so they transfer all of your files from the IVF clinic to your OB, and then they just, your first appointment with your OB/GYN is, I mean, usually you don't even go into your OB/GYN, I think, until like 8 or 10 weeks, so I wasn't too
Yeah.
far off. But yeah, it was just like a little quick catch-up session with my OB to be like, hey, this is where we're at. Then it just becomes more of a normal pregnancy than anything else.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of Moms on the Mic with Mariah. We will be back again with another topic to cover next week. Go ahead and rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on IG, YouTube, and TikTok at Moms on the Mic with Mariah. And let me know what other issues, good or bad, you guys would like to hear on the podcast, and any feedback. If you'd like to be featured, go ahead and fucking contact me in any way possible, and we would love to have you on. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you guys back here again next week.